Hello, today we are moving on to lesson 12B, so continuing with our rational number operations. Today students will be able to find the sum or difference of rational numbers. Students will be able to discuss whether your estimates make sense, and this is important for many real-world problems like finding the overall change in a bank account. So today is really going to be sort of a review of what we did in the last few lessons. So let's go ahead and look at some of these decimals. So number one, we have negative 9.8 plus negative 3.3. And so that's already adding. Let me zoom in. Getting closer. That's already adding, so I don't have to change anything. But let's look at the signs. So we have negatives here and we have more negatives here. Since these are the same signs, we're going to add these numbers together. So let's look at 9.8 and 3.3 added together. 8 and 3 is 11, carry the 1, bring down the decimal. 9 and 1 is 10, plus 3 more is 13. And so since these were all negative, that means I have a total of negative 13.1. Let's look at number 2, 11.1 plus negative 5.8. This is positive, that one's negative. Since they are different signs, we are going to subtract. So we set up the one with more. We have more positives than negatives here. So I put the more up top, and I subtract the smaller one. So we're going to subtract 11.1 minus 5.8. Here we need to borrow, so I'll change that to a 0, make that an 11. 11 take away 8 is 3, bring down the decimal. And now I see this as 10. You could always borrow here and write the 10 there if you'd like, but 10 minus 5 is 5. And so since I had more positives than negatives, my answer there would be positive 5.3. Let's keep going. Here's a subtraction problem. Remember, all subtractions we want to rewrite. Add the opposite. And so now I have negatives here and positives there. Since these are different, we will subtract. What do I have more of? Well, I have more negatives, and so I'll write that one up top. 5.3 minus 4.9. We need to borrow. Make that a 13. So 13 minus 9 is going to give me 4, bring down the decimal, and I have 0 left there. And so here I had more negatives, and so my answer will be negative 0.4. Let's go to number 4. Add the opposite. So now these are both positive, so I will go ahead and add them together. I'm going to put the one with more digits up top just to make it easier to write. 14.8 plus 1.7. Let's see, that gives me 15. 4 plus 1 plus 1 is going to give me 6. Bring down that decimal right there. And bring down the 1. And so we get positive 16.5. All right, last easy one. Remember, add the opposite. Add the opposite, 2 lines drawn. And so now this one's negative and this one's negative. Since they are the same sign, we're going to add them together. So 13.9 plus 3.5. 9 and 5 is 14, carry the 1, bring down the decimal. 3 and 3 is 6, plus 1 more is 7, bring down the 1. And we get, since both of these are negative, we have negative 17.4. All right, so that's nothing new. We did all of that stuff in the last few lessons. So let's go ahead and look down here now to number 6. Number 6 is like we saw with our integers, where we have a whole lot of numbers that are being added and subtracted. So just remember, every time you see a subtraction, add the opposite. So we're going to look through for any subtractions. Remember, add the opposite. So let's look through here. I'm not going to change this one because it's the first one. I don't need to say add the opposite on this because there's nothing in front of it. So that's still just negative 12.4 minus, okay, here it is. Add the opposite, okay. Keep going, plus, okay, that's fine, plus, okay, that's fine. So now we collect all of our negatives. So if you remember in our last unit, that means we wanted to collect all of the ones that are sort of seen as like terms. They're like signs. So this is negative, that one's negative, that's positive, this one's negative. So let's add all those up first and then deal with our positive one. So that means for negatives, I have 12.4, 6.8, and 2. Remember, 2 is like $2, so it has the decimal behind it, and then we just fill in with a 0. So I'm going to write it as 2.0 so I can line up all those decimals. And let's add those all up because those were all negatives. Since those are the ones with the same signs, I'm going to add them all together. So add the same signs. Add the ones with the same signs. Add the same signs. All right, so let's look over here. 8 and 4 is 12. Carry the 1. Bring down the decimal. 6 and 2 is 8. 2 more is 10. 1 more is 11. Carry the 1. And 1 and 1 is 2. And so that tells me I had all of my negatives together made negative 21.2. And those are what's going to be added to that one little positive number left over there, 15.5. Now I look at what I have left. I have negatives and positives. Do I have more of what? So I have more negatives. Since these are different signs now, I'll go ahead and subtract what's there. So I have more negatives, so I will write 21.2 minus 15.5. I'm subtracting now because they had different signs. All right, I can't take 5 from 2, so I will borrow, make that a 0, make that a 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. Bring down the decimal. We can't subtract 5 from 0, so let's borrow from the 2, make it a 1, make that a 10. 10 minus 5 I can do. 10 minus 5 is 5, and 1 minus 1 is nothing. So I would have a difference there of 5.7. Now I bring it back to my answer part. I had more negatives, so my answer is actually going to be negative 5.7. There's my answer. All right, so let's try that again. How about on this one? Number 7. Number 7, I have positive. That's good. That's already adding. That's already adding. But here we go. Write this as an adding the opposite. Add the opposite. All right, so now we have it all written where we can clearly see the signs on every number. So that one's positive. Here's a negative. I'm going to underline. That one's positive. Oh, here's a negative. I'm going to underline. So we're going to combine the ones that have the same sign. So I know this time I've got some positives to combine and some negatives to combine. So let's start with the positives just because I see this one first. That one's positive, that one's positive, and those two are negative. Do you see the difference between those now? So these two are positive and these two are negative. So let's collect them together with their like signs. So 1.79 plus 2.8. Those are the ones I'm going to do first. 1.79 plus 2.8. So let's write that to the side. 1.79 and 2.8. Remember, we line up the decimal and then we fill in with a 0 wherever we need it. 9 and 0 is 9. 8 plus 7 is 15. Carry the 1. Bring down the decimal. 2 plus 1 is 4. And so that tells me I have 4.59 positives. Plus, I do have some negatives. So I'm going to leave that space for it. And let's collect our negatives now. I have 3.2 and 10.09. 3.2, 3.2, and 10.09. I'll just write them like that. Remember, we're most concerned with lining up the decimals here. So I did that, and now I'll fill in a 0 at the end to make it all line up nice. 9 and 0 is 9, 2 and 0 is 2, bring down the decimal, 3 and 0 is 3, 1 and 0 is 1. And so that tells me I have negative 13.29. 13.29. And now I'm ready to do my final operation. So now I have a group of positives, I have a group of negatives, and so now I can see what to do with these. So do I have more positives or more negatives? Well, I have more negatives. Since I have both signs, I'm going to subtract these numbers. I'll write that one up top. So now to the side, 13.29. 13.29 minus the 4.59. All right, so let's do that subtraction. 9 take away 9 is 0. I can't take 5 from 2, so I borrow and make that a 12. 12 minus 5 I can do. That's 7. Bring down the decimal. Again, I can't take 4 from 2, so I borrow and make that 12. 12 minus 4 I can do. That gives me 8. So the difference there is 8.7 or 8.70. So let's write that over here now. Our final answer, we knew we had more negatives, and so our answer would be negative 8 and I'll go ahead and write 70. We don't technically need that 0 on the end, but let's go ahead and write it there anyway. All right, a couple more problems. Let's keep going. Negative 250. You know what? I'm going to underline all my negatives, the ones that stay negative. Let's see. This one's a subtraction, so we add the opposite. That's now a positive. I'll go ahead and circle all my positives. This one's already adding, and this one's negative still. So let's underline that one. This one's adding already, and it's positive. So let's circle that one. All right, so let's look at combining our negatives and our positives together. So let's combine the negatives first this time, just because that's the first number there. So I know I have negative 250 in the front, negative 100.98 back here, and so I'm going to combine those together. So 250 plus 100.98. And remember to line up the decimals. On a whole number 250, like $250, that decimal would go back behind it. And then we fill in the zeros. All right, so this is a pretty easy addition. 0 and 8 is 8, 0 and 9 is 9, decimal, 0, 5, and 3. And so that means altogether, for my negatives, I have negative 350.98. Then I'm going to add in my positives. So over here I've got 200.34. 200.34 positives added to 221. And remember, $221, that decimal would be behind it. So now we add. 4 and 0 is 4. Here we get 3. Bring down the decimal, 1 and 2 and 4. All right, so for my positives, I had a total of 421.34. All right, so now we do our final operation. Now we can go ahead and look and see what we have. So we still have both signs here. We have negatives and positives, so I will be subtracting. Do I have more negatives or more positives? Well, here I've got more positives. So I will start with that one, 421.344, 21.34, and I'm going to take away the 350.98 that I had in front there. Those were the negatives. All right, I can't take 8 from 4, so I need to borrow. Make that a 2. 14 minus 8 gives me 6. Can't take that away, so I borrow. Make that a 12. 12 minus 9 is 3. Bring down the decimal. Here we get 0. That's nice and easy, but here I've got to borrow again. And that's okay. 12 minus 5 is going to give me 7, and then we have nothing left there, so we get 70.36. 70.36. So I'm going to write that here, 70.36. Sorry, that's getting a little scrunched in there. 70.36. And did we have more negatives or more positives? Well, we had more positives, so that's going to stay our answer. Our answer is actually positive 70.36. Please put a box around it so I can see yours. Sorry, mine's getting so scrunched together. All right, last problem. Here we go. Negative 21.72. All right, that's a negative. Plus, all right, that's already adding, and that's positive. That's already adding, that's positive. Oop, this one's subtracting, so add the opposite. That one becomes negative. Oop, subtracting. Add the opposite, and that one became positive. So I'm going to circle it. All right, now we just combine the ones with our like signs. So we have negative 21.72 and negative 35. Let's go ahead and add those together first. So I'm going to do some work over here just for sake of space. 21.72 combined with the 35, decimal behind, like it's dollars. We get 2, we get 7, bring down the decimal. We get 6, we get 5. And so that means all my negatives make negative 56.72. Then we add up our positives. So our positives there are 18.9, 18.9. We have 33, like dollars, the decimal goes behind with a 0. And then our other positive is 19.38. So $19.38 is how I like to see it. Looks like that one had an extra decimal place, so I'll add in some zeros. And we add. We get 8 and 12 and decimal. And 9 and 3 is going to be 12. And 9 more is 12 and 9 more. 12 and 9 more is 21. Write the 1, carry the 2. 2 and 1 is 3. 3 more is 6. 1 more is 7. So that means we are adding 71.28 to our negative. Oop, and we are out of time, and so that will be it for today.